Welcome to Time Out for Trade. I'm Macy Opolinski, and on this episode, we're welcoming Customs Affairs and Compliance Director Amy Magnus at A&N Deringer to take over the podcast to discuss an overview of recent regulatory changes affecting de minimis thresholds. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and pass the mic on over to Amy.
Hi, everybody. Today is August 4th, 2025. And it's very important for me to tell you the date because things are changing so rapidly that maybe in a week, everything that I say right now will be different. So it's important to give you a date. Last week, we had a number of executive orders that were promulgated by the president. I'm going to talk about just one of them, and that's what we call Section 321, or the recent changes to the de minimis. Section 321 is actually 19 U.S. Code 1321, and it deals with low-value goods, goods that are valued under $800. In the executive order, the language was that the purpose was to close a catastrophic loophole. Now that sounds pretty wild, catastrophic loophole. But what it really amounts to is the elimination of duty-free entry for goods valued under $800 in retail value in the country of shipment. Now, this de minimis or Section 321 has been going on for quite a long time. In 2017, it was raised to $800. And a lot of things happened after 2017, including additional punitive duties on China. So this duty-free provision under Section 321 became very attractive. And it was a way to bring goods into the United States without paying any duties or fees of any kind, totally duty-free. So to close this catastrophic loophole, an executive order was issued on July 30th, 2025. And the purpose of that, or the reason for the executive order, actually, in addition to closing the catastrophic loophole, gotta love it, was that there was a belief on behalf of the administration that Section 321 was being used to evade tariffs. No kidding, it was free of duty. Funneling duty-free synthetic opioids. In other words, using the small package arena as a way to smuggle synthetic opioids, like think fentanyl and other harmful drugs, and also other unsafe or below market products entering the United States, harming the American workers. So, effective August 29th, 2025, this loophole is, for the large part, going to be going away. Let me try to explain a little further. First of all, the sheer volume. Between 2015 and 2024, the volume of the de minimis increased exponentially from 134 million to over 1.36 billion, which means on an average right now, the Customs and Border Protection is processing over 4 million de minimis shipments every day. That's 4 million small packages every day. So you can imagine how difficult it would be to perform really thorough and careful examinations. The Customs and Border Protection folks could not possibly be examining 4 million de minimis packages every day, in addition to the normal trade that's going on. So that's why I think it might have been a vehicle for some bad players. Okay, everybody, let's talk through this two-pronged approach that the executive order. First of all, if goods are imported through normal means other than the U.S. Postal Service, in other words, normal commercial means, we're talking commercial shipments, not hand carry by somebody who's been traveling overseas, but normal commercial shipments, then the normal procedures will apply, even if it's valued under $800. By normal procedures, I mean that entry type 01 or entry type 11, most likely, will be filed. And those must be filed with the parties who have the right to make entry. Normally, a broker files these entries, but there are self-filers as well. So that would just be your normal process, your normal commercial process. If goods are shipped through the U.S. Postal Service, things get a little different and a little bit more confusing too. There is, of course, the provision for the ad valorem duty rate. And that's, again, what most duties are ad valorem rate. In other words, it's a percentage of the value of the good equal to whatever the reciprocal IEPA duties are based on the country. So, for example, with Canada right now, if it's non-NAFTA, it'd be 35 non-USMCA, used to be NAFTA. That duty rate now is 35%. So that would be 35% of $800. That would be your ad valorem rate. Then there's this provision that they allow the U.S. Postal Service for the first 6 months when this goes into effect. And this rate is what they're calling a specific rate. And this is a little bit more confusing. So I'll try to talk through it without confusing you and myself. So countries with an effective IEPA tariff rate less than 16% will pay $80 per item. Countries with an effective IEPA tariff rate between 16% and 25% will pay $160 per item. And the next one is countries with an effective IEPA tariff rate above 25% will pay $200 per item. So there you go. If you have an $800 value package and the effective duty rate is above 20, the effective IEPA duty rate is above 25%, then you're going to be paying $200, a specific rate of $200 per item. That's kind of a lot. I would think. So U.S. Postal Service isn't really getting away with anything. Everybody thinks the Postal Service gets away with stuff, but they're really not. The odd thing about Postal Service also is that the carriers who are authorized to carry U.S. Postal Service goods, they are the ones who are responsible for both collecting these duties and remitting the duties to Customs and Border Protection. That's very unusual. We have to get further instruction before they go into effect. So basically, duty-free treatment remains available for postal shipments until we receive further instructions. So that's it. That's the two-pronged approach. So then there is the definition of IEPA, and those are all the other country duty rates that the executive orders have come out. And I just listed, there's a number of executive orders. For the purpose of our discussion today, you don't need to delve into them. Just know that there are all kinds of duty rates all around the world now as of today because of the IEPA reciprocal duties. And then there were also the IEPA fentanyl duties that were put in place earlier this year. So those duties will still apply now to goods, even if they are valued under $800. No one should be surprised. There have been threats to this de minimis or Section 321 for quite some time. There was actually in some of the executive orders that came earlier this year, there was a suspension of Section 321, and then it was subsequently retracted by additional executive orders. And then China was actually denied any Section 321 in earlier this year. So as of April, China has not been able to send in de minimis goods. So nobody should be surprised that there's been a complete now abandonment of Section 321 for anybody, unless, of course, it's U.S. Postal Service. And even that's going to go away. We just don't know the exact date that that's going away. So now that normal entry procedures for commercial goods are in place, there will be a requirement for a surety bond, even for goods valued under $2,500, which are the informal Type 11 entries. Still, unless you're doing a live entry, you'll have to have a surety bond in order to make entry. And your broker, of course, will know all about what's required there. And a carrier who is going to be doing the collection of duties for goods that are being shipped via the U.S. Postal Service, those goods will be collected by the those duties will be collected by the carrier and remitted to customs. So there will be a carrier bond required for any of those carriers that are bringing in any type of U.S. Postal Service packages. There will be some bond sufficiency considerations. In other words, if you exceed the amount and value that your bond covers, you would have to get a new or an additional bond amount. So there'll be some bond considerations going forward. And then there was a very strange part of this executive order, which I just want to touch on for a minute, and that is the severability section. And really, all that meant was written into the text of the executive order on the suspension of Section 321. There was this caveat that if any individual or circumstances held to be invalid in that executive order, the de minimis provision will still be valid. And I think that language was put in there, though I have no way of really knowing. Some of you may be aware that there are some court challenges to the IEPA duties, actually saying that these duties may have been, they may have exceeded the president's authority. And they may, depending on how the courts decide, and ultimately we all think this is going to go to the Supreme Court, maybe all these IEPA duties will be found to be illegal, in which case the language in this executive order seems to indicate that even if that were to happen and the IEPA duties are determined to be illegal, there will be no Section 321 or duty-free treatment of goods valued under $800. And in that severability language, the executive order actually cited some very specific IEPA executive orders to somehow, maybe should they go away, the Section 321 or the duty-free treatment under $800 is still going to go away. So we'll see how all this plays out. And, again, here we are in the beginning of August, and who knows what's going to happen at the end of August when this does go into effect. And who knows what's going to happen with the U.S. Postal Service when we get further instructions there. And there's a lot of uncertainty right now, and we're just going to go with it. So I hope that you found some of this to be of value. We'll just have to wait and see. So thank you for your time.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of Time Out for Trade, and a massive thank you to Amy for taking the time to share her expertise on the ever-evolving changes to de minimis. If you'd like to dive deeper into tariff updates and other trade-related topics, head on over to our website at anderinger.com. There you can find more resources and insights. And of course, you can find us on social media on X, LinkedIn, and Facebook. Thanks again, and we'll see you back here soon.